When I was a child, I went missing for hours on 2 different occasions. Here are the stories. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tommy Daniels. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, I'm going to be giving you a sweet story time of 2 different events that happened when I was a child. Well, the same event, but happened 2 different occasions. When I was a child, probably about 8 to 10 years old. Yeah, if you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, let me know how you find this story time. Like this video and share. All right, then let's get into the video. Okay, so let me paint the picture. So I must have been about nine years old. I don't think I was more. Yeah, I must have been about maybe even 8, maybe 9 actually, 8, 9, thereabout. And yeah, I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. So we had this church event. It was a like children's weekend. I don't know if you're a Christian, you know that like, you know, some churches like they do like youth weekend, men's weekend, women's weekend. So this was like the children's weekend. So the Saturday, this was a Saturday, it happened on a Saturday. On the Saturday, I think we're having evangelism. Again, if you're not a Christian or if you don't know what evangelism means, it's basically when you're sharing the good news about God and about Jesus, letting people know that God loves them just the same way he loves you watching this video. So that was what we had on that day. So we were singing, probably singing at tracts or flyers, that telling people about God and, you know, distributing them and just walking around the streets in groups, obviously, or as a large group. We would have been, I can't remember how many we were, but it would have been quite a few. Probably, I don't know, probably more than 100 or like 100. It would have been a lot of people. So yeah, that was what we're doing that day. So just imagine like little Tommy singing, Jesus loves you, Jesus must be honored, well, we attract and doing all of this. Okay, jokes apart. But yeah, so I did that and then we finished, the event ended, we got back to church, and I was going to take a bus back home. It wasn't too far from my house, but it wasn't like in any way walking distance. It was probably like a 15 minutes drive to my house from the church. So I was waiting to get a bus. Like the bus stop was pretty much right in front of the church. So I was just waiting there to get on the bus, and there were no buses. Bear in mind, I said I was like 8, 9 thereabout, but it was just one bus. It was still, and the time must have been about maybe 6, 5. So it was like maybe like 5:36. So it was beginning to get like a bit late. But then I'd been standing there for quite a bit, and then there were no buses. And then guess who I see? I see my dad. He was on his way out, like he was driving on his way out, and he saw me. I think I didn't even see him. He saw me first. And then he stopped, and I was like, oh, you know, I mean, he was on his way out. I think he was going to a friend's house, and probably with some friends, or he was just by himself going to a friend's house. So I was like, oh, I've been trying to get a bus, and I hadn't been able to get a bus. So he waited with me a bit. We're trying to get a bus, though no buses were coming. And then my dad had this genius idea. I don't know how how we thought about it. He had this genius idea. Actually, before I get to that part, first of all, like at this time, there were mobile phones in Nigeria, but it wasn't a lot, right? This would have been like, I said I was 8, 9, so maybe like 1998, 1999, thereabout. So they were in maybe like 1999. Yeah, I think I must have been about 9. So there weren't really mobile phones at the time. So we didn't have, I don't think he would have had a no, he didn't have a mobile phone at that time. So I think we had a landline. I don't know what year we got a landline, but probably not that early. Maybe early 2000s would have been when we got a landline. So there was no phone, basically. There was no way we could contact. Like people had, but we didn't have mobile phones. The mobile phones weren't really a thing at the time anyway. So go back to like my dad. My dad had this genius idea that because it was running late, like it wasn't an appointment. He was just going to hang out with his friends at that time. But yeah, I guess it was getting late, and he was kind of waiting with me for a bit. And I guess he just didn't want to leave me. As I said, it was getting a bit. It would have started to get dark by this time. Like so he didn't want to leave me there, which was a sensible thing to do. However, what was not so great was him deciding and having this genius idea to take me with him to his friend's place. There were no phones, so he didn't tell anyone that he had taken me. I think the options there would have been either for him leaving me was probably not a great idea, because you wouldn't know when the bus would come, and maybe, I don't know, must have been something that caused the delay with buses, so leaving me was probably out of it. But what would have been the right thing to do was for him to take me back home. As I said, it would probably add 30 minutes to his trip, as in 15 minutes each way to get back to where he was, and he probably just wanted to go meet his friends, so he took me with him. As a child, I didn't even think about it. I just like, yeah, let's go, why not? And I'm just imagining, I can't even remember like what I did at the friend space, because it was just like him and like maybe like 5 or 6 men or whatever, just hanging out. And they must have been there. Again, like this friend's house was a bit of a distance, not too far. Again, must have been like, say, 40 minutes drive or something like there about from our house, so it wasn't like the closest. And then in traffic it would even be like a lot later. So I got his friend's house. I too, like them, I don't know, they probably would have given me food, and then I would have been enjoying myself and just being jolly. I don't know how neither him or myself thought about it like being a bad idea and thinking like, oh, they'll actually be looking for me. I don't think I thought about it. So after the event, at this time, was properly like, it was probably like by this time we're coming back, it must have been like, say, 9-10 o'clock. And then we were just coming back. We didn't even think anything of it. I don't think we even thought that, oh, they'll be looking for us, or he might have thought about it, but from my own perspective, I'm just a 9-year-old girl that is happy to be to have gone out with her dad. And then I got back home, just as we were driving like on our street, we saw like there was a bench in front of the house, and my mom, I think one of my sisters, and one of the women like that was in charge like of the church, like the children's leaders or whatever from church. Obviously, as I said, I went for that program. So now what happened was, before I got there, they had looked everywhere for me. Of course, they had gotten really worried. They had gotten in touch with the woman and the church, and then everyone said they didn't see me. I left. This is the time we got back. We left. Thinking about it now in hindsight, I feel like, I don't know, maybe we were just, maybe then when it was just safer, but I'm thinking, oh, should they have actually let me? I guess, yeah, I could go on my own, like it was just one bus. It wasn't really, yeah, I guess, yeah, it was one bus, so the leaders in church would have let me go. But anyway, so the woman was there, and this would have been like 10 o'clock, so think about it, since probably about 6 o'clock that the program finished, 4 hours, like I was nowhere to be found. They had no idea where I was. There were no mobile phones, so they wasn't like, they didn't know. They obviously, of course, they knew where my dad was, but they couldn't have contacted him to say that, oh, I wasn't home, and they were looking for me. But we just came back and we saw them, and my mom was like so upset. My sisters, like everyone. It was like my mom, one of my sisters, the woman, I said, like the leader in church, like I think she was a pastor, like one of the pastors in church, and then a son as well, like which was like my sister's friend or my sister's agent as well, and we're all there, and it was interesting to say the least. But yeah, that was one of the times like where I was quote unquote missing. Well, from their perspective, I was missing for 4 hours, but I'm just trying to think about it as a parent, like how what would be going through your mind, like 4 hours and you've not seen this. You're at that point, like, God forbid, I can't even like imagine it. But at that point, you're probably just thinking that this child is gone. Like, this will really take God. This is definitely a case of kidnapping, or she's been abducted, or yeah, you probably be thinking the worst at this time. But yeah, I don't know. My dad had the genius idea to take me. So dad, he kept explaining what was going through your mind at this time. But yeah, that was the first story of when I went missing for hours. The second time, I must have been about 10. So I was in primary school, my last year of primary school, and I was to write common entrance exams. It was called common entrance exams. So like basically entrance exams to no, it wasn't a common entrance exam. Oh, something in my eye. No, it wasn't a common entrance. It was the entrance exam to a particular secondary school. So for those that live in Lagos, no, Nigeria, it was a federal government college, Ijaniki. So I was writing the entrance exam to Ijaniki. I think the exam was going to be over 2 days. It was going to be over 2 days. I don't know if we're supposed to write exam on both days or I was supposed to write on the first day. I think I may have been supposed to write on the first day. And so my mom took me. My mom walked quite close to that secondary school, so it wasn't far at all. So she took me there. It was very far from my like very far from where I lived, very far from my primary school as well. My primary school was closer to where I lived, obviously, but my mom walked quite close. So she dropped me in the morning. Went to work and said she was going to be back to pick me after the exams, but of course, like, when I finish, just wait and she'll pick me up. Now, I think what happened was, it turns out like that they couldn't fit me in, or they couldn't fit, like, they had to move some of us to the next day. I don't know if it was originally slated for 2 days, or maybe they decided to make it a second day or something. Probably. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure, like, of the details, but actually I think this was 2001. Yeah, so I was 10. I turned 11 later that year. So I was 10. It was 2000. It was, yeah, it would have been either 2000 or 2001. Definitely one of those 2 years. But I must have been at 10. Yeah, so this, she dropped me off, went to work, and then I think maybe after waiting for hours, they said, oh, we weren't going to write our exam that day, we were going to write it the next day. So we could leave earlier. Not everybody, I think some were able to write their exams that day. And then someone from my primary school, there were like 3 people or so from my primary school that were also writing this exam. So one of them, like, was like a neighbor that I knew well. I think we actually came together. But then there was another person that I just saw. I didn't know she was coming. I just saw her there. And then I think her mom came to pick her. So when they saw me, they thought, oh, same school, you know what, we'll just take you home again, like an adult. That had the genius idea to just take me, that they would take me home. I guess maybe she thought like she was doing my parents a favor because they've picked me up. But what they must have missed was the fact that no one knew where I was. So I went, okay, so I said I went with someone else, like a neighbor. I think he must have written his exam that day, so I probably didn't know that I didn't get to write it that day or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Like, it's been quite a few years. It's been about 22 years. No, it's been about 21 years. Wow. So yeah, it must have so maybe he was writing, so he wouldn't have even known where I was. So I went with this lady. She took me because her daughter as well couldn't write exam that day. I think that was what happened. And we left. We went home. Again, as I said, at this time there were still no mobile phones, but I think we had a landline at this time. Maybe we did. Maybe we didn't. I don't know. So once again, my mom goes back to the school as we planned, she went back to the school to pick me, and I wasn't there. They were looking for me for hours. I'd been home. The woman dropped me off at home or something. And I think when I got home, I don't know who was at home, maybe my dad, or it was just me, or who would have been home with me. But then there was no way, I think we had a landline, but there wouldn't have been any way. We did have a landline at this point, but maybe the rest of the family came back later or whatever. I don't know exactly the details, but I know, like, my mom was looking for me for hours. Then one of my sisters was at university, and university was quite close as well to that secondary school. So eventually, I think at night, my mom had gotten in touch with my sister and said, oh, she'll spend the night with her. They'd still not found me. And they were, trying and basically looking for me and trying to, and imagine, like, they don't even know since when I'd been missing. And again, for context, like, it's a lot. It wasn't like 10 kids or whatever. It was a lot, and that's probably even why they decided to split it and have another on the second day. So like hundreds. Think about like hundreds of children or people. So you just think the worst. Like, think like this. Someone must have picked her up and she's gone. So she called, she tried, and finally got in touch with my sister, and my sister was close by, but because it was, at this point, it was late, I think, so she wasn't even planning on going back home. But then eventually, I think they were able to reach, maybe they called the landline or something at home, and they said I was at home. So like, what? Like, what? But yeah, I was like, oh no, like, I didn't think about it. I don't know, again, like, I'm not, I'm laughing at Mike. I just imagine how she was just thought like this child is really silly. Like, what the child and the adult that decided that they were doing my parents a favor, like, taking me up and dropping me back home. I don't even know if it was maybe I would have asked. I don't think I would have asked for her to take me, but she just took me, and I knew her daughter were in the same school on the same year. So yeah, so my mom was obviously very furious. She had to spend the night because it was so late at night at this point. She had to spend the night in my sister's hostel, or dorm, as you call it in America. She had to spend the night with my sister, and I think I was going to write the exam the second day. I think the second day my dad took me, so I still didn't see her. So I'd left by the time she would have before she came back. Obviously she would come later in the day or thereabout. So after my exams, then I got home, and I think we must have trashed, like, I don't know, like, of course at that point, like, it's everyone is calm, but we would have discussed it again, and just they were like, don't do that. So yeah, those were the 2 times. I wasn't actually missing, but from my mom, who seems to be at the receiving end both times. So my mom and my sisters, I was missing for a few hours, and it wasn't funny. I can't imagine like what they were going through. But yeah, let me know, have you ever had such an experience, or did you actually have an experience where you actually went missing for real, or just any childhood stories? Like, I was just thinking about like like, what are these like story times from childhood, and maybe like I will try and do more of this. Actually, I feel like maybe I should bring my sisters on here. Like, they have a lot more juicy stories from childhood. I think by the time they had me, like, I have 4 sisters, by the way. I'm the last of 5 girls. So by the time they had me, I don't think much was going on anymore, but they had a lot more juicy stories. So maybe I'll bring them on here to come and share some more childhood memories. But in the comment section below, let me know like some of the juicy moments you've had as a child, or like interesting events that happened as a child. And yeah, let me know if you like this story time. Give this video a thumbs up, and like this video, leave a comment, share this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tommy Daniels. Goodbye.